Our ability to engage with the unconscious in a healthy way is probably the closest thing we have to a metric of psychological maturity. It doesn't mean that if you ever have a struggle with the unconscious that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that, because everyone does. Even the great sages would have interactions, and often difficult ones, with the unconscious mind. It's not that. But if there is this kind of resistance to it at any cost, this pathological aversion to one's own feeling, or even the proclivity to be frightened and confused and discombobulated about what one encounters, well, this is often the sign of an ego that's holding on too tight, right? It has its understanding of what it is within the world. It is me, this person, and it's received so much energy that when something comes along to put a crack in that, it can be very upsetting. And I think we all have to go through this on some scale. It's only natural that the ego will get a fright, at least the first time it encounters something that it just cannot make sense of psychologically. A lot of people report this through psychedelic experience. The first time someone has a heavy dose of psychedelics, and if they're not properly briefed into the workings of mind, or given the right kind of training and encouragement as to how to engage with it, then they're likely to have a very difficult experience. It doesn't mean that experience can't ultimately be integrated. However, it could be a little bit much to take on, I think it's fair to say, from the get-go, if not approached with utmost caution. And so active imagination is arguably a safer way to go about this, because you can start to put these little cracks in the impressions of the ego without taking off the guardrails completely. You always have the ability to stop an exercise, to hold off, to ask someone for advice, to get the insight into what might have been happening and this kind of thing. But if you can reach a point where you have a healthy relationship with the unconscious, even though it surprises you, even though it challenges you, and even though you understand that you can never know all of it, but in spite of all that, your relationship with it is still a healthy one, in a very similar way to how it would be with your spouse or a friend. They're always going to surprise you, right? However, no matter what they do, there is that responsibility that's being taken, and that willingness to understand what it means about my own mind. What is it showing me about the nature of my own mind, about how I am assessing or even judging the meaning of what comes up, and how is that accurate, and how do I know that it's accurate? And there are ways, and we're going to be covering that in other courses, certainly in the shadow work course,